Hello, Pong Stars, and welcome to the Rathole. I'm your host, Commissioner Zack Eichten. In NFL news, Cam Newton was unable to play, as well as the entire Titans and Steelers teams, due to COVID in Week 4. The owners of the NFL teams had an emergency meeting with coaches and GMs to reinforce the rules surrounding COVID safety and precautions, and warn that players and clubs could be fined or suspended for doing dumb things and getting the league sick. On Wednesday, it was also announced that additional players on the Titans, Patriots, and Raiders have all tested positive for COVID as well. If I could just suggest to all of the NFL executives that watch this show every week, maybe consider bubbling your teams and actually consider shutting down the league for 2 weeks, not only to hopefully get the COVID numbers back under control and stop the outbreaks on your teams, but also you have 1 million players injured this year that could really use the additional time to heal. So you actually have your star players back and have a good season with them playing. Just a suggestion, taking into account all of those executives who watch our show. Now let's head on over to league news, and we'll be starting with the matchup recaps from Week 4. In Game 1, we had the Gluten Freaks versus Not Trading Lamar in what looked like going into the week would be a high-scoring shootout. And, well, one team lived up to that, and it was not Trading Lamar, who won 128.92 to 74.2. The Gluten Freaks now have the lowest total score this season in a single week with that score. Actually, one of my good friends, Jake Tapper, was able to tune into that game. Jake, how would you describe the Gluten Freaks' performance in Week 4?
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Harsh words, but it is accurate, Jake. Thank you for being on the program. Last week on this program, I predicted that whoever's QB did better would be the thing that predicted which team won. And, well, the only freak player to take that into account must have been Josh Allen, who barely outscored Lamar Jackson. But the rest of the team didn't get the memo. They thought only Josh Allen had to play. And that was the only player who hit projections. Every single other player on this team was below projections for Week 4. Truly a hot mess at the Gluten Freaks organization this week. Not Trading Lamar, however, continues to win, in large part due to having the lowest average points against this season. But that is not to say he didn't perform well in this game. DJ Chark, in his first game back, scored 25.5 points, and Todd Gurley played well against the Packers and scored 18.8. Overall, a good score was plenty to just absolutely obliterate the Freaks in Week 4. In game number 2, we had the Google team names against the Dog Sniffers. Now, I've unashamedly been a supporter of the names this year, as they have a better than expected team and came through again in Week 4. Sam is now on a 3-game win streak after losing in Week 1. Melvin Gordon was the third highest running back scorer of the week at 24.8 points, which was able to, support a lacking performance from Jonathan Taylor in Week 4. However, it was the wide receivers that played especially well this week, with Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, and Will Fuller combining for 59.8 points. The names continue to be a powerhouse team this year, and I'm excited to see where they go moving forward. The Dog Sniffers, they finally had a game they just couldn't overcome and only scored 98.9 points and lost to the names in Week 4. Jeff Wilson was brought in to replace the COVID-impacted Snell and Connor and only scored a measly 2.4 points in that starting running back spot. Deshaun Watson did score his highest point total yet on the year with 20.9 points, and we'll look to getting those numbers up with a new head coach after Bill O'Brien has been fired from the Texans. The Dog Sniffers will be looking to the newly returned James Conner and Benny Snell to get this team back on track in that running back position. However, word on the street is that Benny Snell may not be on the team anymore after Thomas went haywire on the waiver wire, picking up, I believe it is 3 tight ends and counting, trying to get any amount of trade value from tight end weak teams. So let's move on to game number 3. In game number 3, we had the Revengers versus Glass Bones and Paper Skin. For Noel, the bad luck just continues somehow as Glass Bones put up 50 more points than his next highest score in Week 4. In no small part, that's due to the return of starting tight end George Kittle, who is now the leading tight end scorer in a single week with 32.6 points. Additionally, Joe Mixon had one heck of a send-off game from Glass Bones, scoring 39.1 points, against the team he is now being traded to. One unfortunate piece of the Glassbones team this week was a mere 4.4 points from T.Y. Hilton, who hasn't scored above 7.3 yet this year. The keeper was unceremoniously cut this week by Glassbones, but that's fine because despite Hilton's terrible performance this year, Lucas got his first win of the season and against the defending champ. Speaking of the defending champ, the Revengers have had some just terrible scheduling luck this year, honestly. They have the third most points for in the league, but have only been able to pull off one win just due to every other team just absolutely coming to play when they face off against the Revengers. They had a great score this week of 129.08, again led by Dak Prescott, the number 2 fantasy quarterback through 4 weeks. Unfortunately, Kamara couldn't pull out another 38-point game and had only 19.4 points against Detroit. If the Revengers want more wins, they'll need to get those wide receiver numbers up, as Woods and Gallup scored a combined 10.6 points. But word on the street is a new trade could be coming where some wide receiver help could be heading towards the Revengers' way, including Michael Thomas coming back as well. Let's head on down to game number 4, where we have the Rock Plopstas edging out newly renamed Worse Than Trash, Tony Townsend's team. Tony had a chance going into Monday night due to the news that Devontae Adams would not be playing on Monday Night Football. And the Rock Plopstas had to put in backup Marquez Valdez-Scantling instead. Unfortunately for Tony, that still was just not enough of a gift, and he could not pull off the win. Again, Tony managed to choose the incorrect quarterback and played Drew Brees, who scored 15.54 points, while Minshew got 20.94 on the bench. Will Tony ever play the right quarterback? Who's to say? The Rock Plopstas have caught the injury bug again as lead running back Nick Chubb heads to IR with an MCL sprain, which is looking like it could sideline him for 6 weeks. This is obviously a huge blow to the Plopstas, who will now be relying on Miles Sanders and Antonio Gibson to fill those lead running back spots. This week, the Plopstas were able to still pull off a win despite Cam Newton also being unavailable as he caught the COVID. Backup quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick scored 21.3 points, just barely giving the edge to John and his squad. It will be interesting to see if he rolls with Fitzpatrick again if Cam remains sidelined with COVID for additional weeks. Oh man. Oh, geez. Avert your gaze as we stare at the bloodbath that was the game of the week between the Spring Chickens and the Gruesome Grinders. The Spring Chickens gruesomely grinded Drew and his team into submission with a score of 192 to 97.42. Let's talk about what remains of Drew's team here after the massacre, which starts with some bad news on Austin Eckler. Eckler is expected to be sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring and knee hyperextension injury. He is seeking a second opinion on that, but it's likely the back will be heading to IR and miss some time. He left that game after scoring only 1.9 points. The rest of the team did fine-ish, not fantastic, but definitely within their margins of projections generally. It just, man, the Spring Chickens, though, they must have been furious after putting up 143 in week 3 and losing. So they cranked it up to 1,000. I mean, 192. Geez Louise, it starts with Russell Wilson, who did only score 20.9 points, his lowest on the year so far. But a huge piece of this point total. Cook, Carson, and McKinnon combined for 70.3 points. Evans and Beckham combined for 57.6. And even the tight end Schultz contributed 15.2. And of course, Swan had a defense that went off with Kansas City scoring 21 points. All in all, one of the most impressive scores I've ever seen, but not quite enough to beat highest ever score Josh last year with 193.16. Still amazing and well won to Brendan Swan and the Spring Chickens. With that out of the way, let's take a gander over to the fun fact of the week. This week's fun fact of the week is looking at how teams with high points for and high points against fare going into the postseason. So let's take a look at points for first. Based on our historical data, each year, the person with the highest points for through 4 weeks have made the playoffs. So far, that player this year is Brendan, who's sitting pretty at 590 points, which is about 60 points more than the next highest. It's also the highest ever points for total through 4 weeks in league history. Now for points against. Surprisingly, only 20% of teams that have the highest points against have missed playoffs based on our historical data. Now, take it with a grain of salt, as one year everybody made playoffs and there were 6-person leagues before 2018, but still, that is a heartening statistic for Drew, who currently has the highest points against at 546.99, which is also the highest points against in league history through 4 weeks. So that's kind of neat for you, Drew. You're making history with your terrible scheduling luck. This week, we quite frankly also had just a ridiculous amount of trade alerts. So here are some trade talks after trade talks after trade talks after trade talks.
It's lit.
Welcome to Lucas and Noel joining me for this episode of Trade Talks. It's great to have both you boys here with me today.
Hey, what up? It's your boy, Lil Kukak.
Turn that off. You bum. We got Lil Kukak and we got Noel Tag in here for this episode. Came through on October 3rd, big trade. We got the notification that everybody got it that Joe Mixon was on the trading block. And let's start there. Lucas, what made you decide to put Mixon up for sale on the block this week?
Mix on, he's Mix off the team, honestly. Like, he's been questionable for just every single week that I've been trying to play him, and I hate playing that game of, like, is he actually going to get time to play, or is he just going to end up sitting on the bench? And while he has been performing decent, I don't know. With how often my players are getting injured, I don't know if I can trust it.
Yeah. So Noel, when you saw that Mixon was up for the taking, what made you go for this trade?
Yeah, I think I talked to Lucas before about wanting Mixon, but nothing really came of it. And even at my initial text to him, he was like, "I'm not giving you Mixon."
How the turntables?
I know.
Turned.
How the turntables. I don't know if that was just out of spite that he said that or not, but I kept pestering him.
As you do, yeah.
As I tend to do. And yeah, I don't know. I've always been a fan of Mixon. I don't think he's in the best offense, as we can all see with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Now that they got Joe Burrow, I think they have a chance to be better. He just signed a new contract, I believe, this offseason, and he's only 24 years old.
Right.
So if the Bengals are able to improve their offense, great. If he gets traded, even better. So
perfect. Yeah. So Lucas, you in this trade, you got Adam Thielen and then Mixon's backup, Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah. I just wanted a player so I could replace him.
Fair enough. What made you want Adam Thielen in this trade?
I think with the wide receivers, especially with now I have both Thielen and Jefferson together, I think that'll work really well for me if the Vikings get their head out of their ass.
Questionable.
But, who knows? If I doubt that'll happen. But
the offense was better last game. Come on.
I mean, yeah, true. I didn't watch it, but
yeah, it was slightly better for sure. Noel, you're known for a lot of swindling in this league in your trades, but this is one where I actually don't think that you really got a big swindle out of Lucas. You're looking at your team, you traded for what is currently the number 39 running back based on our league. But you were able to get a first-round draft pick in a couple of years versus having to send off your second-round draft pick for next year.
Yeah, I finally have a second-round pick now.
That's good. Yeah. So my question is...
Part of the trade, I knew Lucas needed a pick, and so I think...
True.
Yeah, it seems like... No, you're trying to stockpile a little bit of resources for the future here. Getting that first round draft pick in a couple of years. Do you think that the price was worth it to get that?
I do. Like I said, I didn't need Thielen.
Right.
He was nice to have because he's a consistent player in the Vikings offense. Like, he's Kirk's go-to man. And so it was nice to have him on the team, but I have Robert Woods and Michael Thomas as my top two when Thomas is healthy.
Right.
But I also have Gallup, and I got Deebo Samuel coming back as well. And so I don't need Thielen, especially after this weekend, hopefully. And like I said, like I've always been a fan of Mixon. I think his potential and talent is far more than what we've been able to see on the Bengals. And so getting Mixon in a first-round pick in 2022, I think it was worth it.
So both of you, would you consider Thielen for you, Lucas, and for Noel Mixon, are these keeper contention level players? Do you think they're going to be on your team for a while?
Maybe. I don't know. It depends how well he does versus like Jefferson and then Galladay. If Galladay steps it up, I think he'll probably be a keeper again. But I don't know. With him getting such a late start in the season, it's kind of hard to tell at this point. But we'll see.
For sure. Noel?
Yeah. Like I said, Mixon's 24 years old, and so he's got the potential to be a keeper for me, along with Kamara and McCaffrey. They're all 25 and under. And I love having three running backs that are young and are very talented. So we'll see how the Bengals are able to do this season. And we got plenty of time in the summer to see how they're going to prepare for the next season as well, to see if he's a keeper for me. But right now, I would think that he is.
Okay. Lucas, just to sweeten the pot for Noel, you also gave Noel $10 of fab money. Was that going to be a deal breaker for you guys if that was not included?
I don't know. I have fab money to spend, so I was like, maybe try to get him to accept the deal.
Lucas used that to sweeten the deal. He originally wanted Darrell Williams. I don't even remember like what happened, but he was like, "What if I get Bernard and $10 fab dollars for $10 fab dollars?" I mean, so
perfect. Yeah, good investment. Noel was able to get Bernard off the waivers for cheap and spun that into that 10 extra fab dollars. So that's maybe a small swindle on the Noel scale, but it was overall pretty good.
They didn't even offer it.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say about your trade before we wrap things up?
That's it,
not
boss.
about the trade, but got some upcoming ads to make for the running.
Yeah, good luck to both of you in the race for assistant commissioner, and it was great to have you both on the show today. So
Zach, I got some first round picks if you want one.
Sorry, what?
I said I got some first round picks if you want some.
That's
collusion.
I'll send you some trades right now.
Okay,
tweeting right now.
All right. See you boys later.
Yeah.
Welcome, folks, to this episode of Trade Talks between myself and Tony Townsend, owner of, what's your new team name?
Worse Than Trash, I believe.
Worse Than Trash. Yes. I do remember that now. Now, Tony, that name came after our trade. I hope that you don't feel that our trade ended up costing you having to change that name.
No.
Okay, good. But let's talk about this trade that we did. So I don't know how you want to lead off here. How did these trade talks get initiated here?
I believe what ended up pretty much completely sparking the idea with.
Hold on.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze. That's a nice. We can restart though, because I felt like my question was dumb. Nice pick of you with that suit. Yeah, get back to that. Back to that guy.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
During sales meeting, my boss ended up looking at me.
Welcome, folks, to this episode of Trade Talks between Tony Townsend and myself. Now, the Gluten Freaks and what is it? Worse Than Trash now is your new team name. Finally got a trade together after weeks of talking about different trades. It's pretty exciting stuff. A historic trade. Tony, what sparked these trade talks between us?
Just the fact that my team is garbage, except a handful of players, not even a handful, probably two. And your team is more in win now, and you need to kind of prove yourself at the top while I am trying to tank.
Yeah, you got to be careful about how much you tank because you don't want to end up with that punishment. So the trade in question, of course, was a 2-for-2 swap on players as well as a pick swap. We had DJ Moore and Cam Akers as well as John's 2021 first rounder getting shipped off to Worse Than Trash. I'm sure they were all thrilled about that move. And then we had Mark Ingram and Julio Jones as well as your 2021 third round pick coming back over. So it's seems like a pretty fair trade on the books with those picks in there as well. So what was the factor that finally was able to get you to loosen your grip on Julio Jones a little bit?
I'd say probably having the first round pick added in there. Just because Cam Akers, I also look at that he has a lot of potential, even in like a 2-back system like he'll have when he's healthy. But you never know if he's going to perform this year or if he's going to perform next year or what. But he's off the bat. Him and Moore are both looking like keepers on my team just because I'm building for later. And I feel like just Akers' potential was higher than Ingram's. And then Moore and Julio, who knows what could happen with that.
Exactly. I mean, Julio Jones has finished top 5 every year except for one since 2014. And the one year he didn't, he was the 9th best receiver in the league. But he's also 31 years old now, and DJ Moore is 23. So that, long-term investment for you versus you're right. I'm definitely in a win now situation. And I'm hoping that is going to be really good for me. So now that you have 2 first-round picks for next year, are those first-round picks just sort of off the trade block now? You're keeping them for sure, or are they going to be, pieces that you can move around if you got a guy in mind that's not on waivers?
I don't know. I look at it right now, they're probably not available just based on who I have on my team. And as of right now, I have my keepers pretty much in mind of who I'm going to keep, and they're all under the age of like 25. So,
Right.
I mean, it's a risk, but
who are those 5 guys? You're gonna spill the beans early?
I mean, it's not going to really change anything, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, probably DeAndre Swift, just because there's potential once AP's out, and then Akers probably. But the only one in question that I wouldn't be keeping, that I probably should, but I might move in for one of the other rookie backs, is Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
So I don't know. I got 6.
That's good. You got options then once you see how folks perform. I mean, we're only in week 4 right now when we're recording this. We're still in week 4. So who knows how it'll turn out, moving forward. Akers could be the best back in the league by the end of the year. We don't know. He's been injured so far. So I'll say from the Gluten Freaks perspective, we're definitely in win now. Julio Jones is going to be a critical piece. I don't think I'm going to play Julio this week just because of the Monday night and him being, questionable on injuries, but we'll see how that goes for me. But anything else you want to bring up before we sign off here?
Do you see yourself keeping Julio for next year?
If he's going to play, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm a big Kenyon Drake guy, but my keepers as of right now, there's 7 guys that could be keepers. I mean, we have Allen, my best friend David Johnson, my other best friend Kenyon Drake, my third best friend Josh Jacobs, Dean, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, and now Julio Jones. Like that's a really solid group of guys. I mean, even Zach Ertz, if he really steps it up, could be a keeper level player. Probably not on my team, but for someone's team. I think that we got a good squad. Even Myles Gaskin could be if he steps up and Miami is actually good, like they have shown signs of being good, who knows? Some of these guys could be keepers for me or other teams.
I did try to work Gaskin into the deal, and it was not happening.
No, it was not happening. Not this early. You can have Brandon Cooks if you want him. You can probably get him on waivers, though. Spoiler alert.
Coming up tomorrow.
Coming up as soon as waivers go through. So, So thank you, Tony, for the great trade. It's a pleasure doing business with you, and hopefully we can get another deal on the books one day.
Oh, for sure. We'll see how
Once
this
you have
comes
players
out,
I want again.
Right. Well, the problem is we've got all my trades so far are future. To know who won the deal, it's future deals. So we'll see.
But it'll be fun to watch your team flourish in the next 2 years here as your picks finally come through for you.
Yeah,
and everybody else's players retire.
Right. Or more ACLs go out. So.
Oh God, yeah, terrible, scary. All right, Tony, thank you for joining me on this episode of Trade Talks, and we'll catch you soon.
Yep, thanks for having me.
All right, let's talk trades. All right, welcome to this episode of Trade Talks. I got Brennan and Noel with me here, owners of the Spring Chickens and the Revengers. It's great to have you both with me today.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having us on. It's a good time to be here. It's a great night. Some good weather going on. What's up, big man? How you doing, Big Chicken?
Good. Nope. Stop that. And
All
I'm good. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you both here. Obviously, we know how much we love trades in this league, so it's always exciting when we get Brennan on for a real trade instead of Tariq Cohen for Peyton Barber. It's a really great time. So let's talk about this trade that you guys made. You made it on October 1st, in time before week 4 began. Noel, you traded off Jerick McKinnon for Brennan's and a 2021 round 4 for Brennan's 2022 second rounder.
That is
Brennan. By the time we're recording this, Jerick McKinnon's already played. How do you feel that trade has worked out for you so far? Having him for one game.
No, it's been huge, Zach. Honestly, I didn't need him. I scored 165 and counting points this week with just 7 guys. So,
wow, sick break, dude.
Cool bag, bro.
I would say I honestly probably lost a second round pick for probably absolutely nothing.
You gained a 4th round.
I got a 4th rounder, and that's fine. You guys know I've talked about this. I'm here to win now. I mean, I got a tight window with Russ as my guy. We got to win now. So big time pickup for me with McKinnon. I mean, he 19 points. That was huge. Honestly, great to have him when Mostert's out. So.
Babe.
No, you ended up with a 2022 second round pick. No players involved for you.
Nope.
How do you value that pick moving forward? Is that going to be on the trading block again, or are you holding on to that to keep your team good in 2 years?
We'll see. As everybody knows, I'm open to trading, so everything's on the trading block.
I am shocked,
but it is nice to have 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks again. So we'll see what happens.
Noel, as of now, you are leading the league in trades so far this season with 6 trades on the year. What is your goal number? How many trades do you want to participate in by the end of the year here?
I want to participate. I want to get to double digits. So I got 4 more to go.
Yeah, you're definitely able to get there with how much you've been trading. Brennan, this is the first trade that you've ever made in this league that wasn't with me. How do you go about even initiating that conversation, and how scared are you that the trade was going to swindle you in the long run?
Well, there's no need to initiate the convo, Zach, to be honest, because Noel texts me every 2 hours about trading.
Ask about your life. Come on.
At one point, I thought there's 2 options we have here. 1, block Noel on all social media.
Wow.
2, get on House Party with Zach and have an intervention of trades with him. Honestly, it was like this guy just wants to trade. But finally, found one that worked. I mean, we were up front with each other, so I felt like it was an honest trade.
Brennan, there's a little bit of controversy surrounding this trade from a few other team owners, including myself and the owner of the Rock Plopsters, John Stevens, where you had us both on the line dangling some nice trades in front of us. What made you to decide to go with Noel's trade over either of the other options that you had?
A lot of people will call it luck. That's probably accurate. But what I call it is just intuition. I mean, I knew Carlos Hyde wasn't going to play, and I would have lost the 6th-round pick for him. I stuck with Carson, and he prevailed. At the same time, J-Dog was willing to offer a couple good backs, namely Nick Chubb. Sorry, gosh, I don't know the names. And he ended up hurt this week. Tough break for J-Dog. Hopefully he bounces back. But honestly, he was asking for Delvin, and I have a lot of sentimental value with that guy. I mean, we grew up together, so.
All right, Brennan, here's a question for you before we wrap up here. Is Dalvin Cook ever going to be on the trade block for you?
If he would have to do really, really bad for me to say I'm going to put him on the trade block, and by that time, people probably won't want him.
You want Kamara for him?
No, I do not want Alvin Kamara.
Rumors tweeting?
No, there's no rumors. Delvin.
All right, what about Kamara and McCaffrey for Cook?
You're not doing that. I know you're not.
All right, sorry. Kamara, McCaffrey, and a 1st-round pick for Cook.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking.
No,
okay. Not doing it. Delvin, I love cheering for the Vikings, and I love having him on fantasy. It's kind of a 2-for-1, so that makes it really exciting.
Says the one wearing a Yankee jacket.
Yeah. Brendan's a real homer with his Yankees apparel on right now. But let's wrap this up, boys. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Trade Talks. It's great talking to you. And Noel, I'm sure I'll see you like 4 more times in the next 3 weeks. So
let's hope so.
See you then. This is going to be the longest Trade Talks yet, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Welcome, Josh and Drew, to this episode of Trade Talks. Big news coming out of your organizations over the past week here, going into week 4. Lot of moves going on. So just to lay it out real quick, I remind folks, because by the time this episode comes out, it'll have been a while ago. Drew traded off Jerry Jeudy and his 2021 first rounder for David Montgomery and Josh's 2021 round 4, which is pretty big trades for both of you. Drew, do you want to go first? Who started this trade talk?
I did, because I needed a running back desperately this week with Kareem Hunt. We're talking about week 4. So week 4, Kareem Hunt injury report. Did not really have any other options besides picking up essentially a backup. So I was looking around at the bench spots for teams around the league and running backs that could be useful. And Josh has some pretty good running back depth with James Robinson showing strong so far. So I thought about getting Montgomery, and I had an extra 1st-round pick that maybe if I wasn't so desperate, I would have maybe started with that, but I really need to get something done quickly. So I had to get Montgomery, and I gave up a 1st for it.
So Josh, Drew came to you with this trade. What was your initial reaction to the trade?
Yeah, no, I was very excited in terms of, I know a lot in fantasy football, a lot of people are impartial. They'll send you trades trying to, screw you over, which is that's what I like to do as well. But I was excited. Drew definitely didn't. He cut to the chase, so he didn't want to waste anyone's time. And I have quite a few running backs, I guess. So I was pretty content with that. David Montgomery as well. He's going to be the best running back in the league, or he's going to be hurt. But really, so looking to the future, especially with all you guys trying to stock up on some of your draft picks, I know I'm looking forward to 2022 as well with the present moment. So I really think this put myself in a good position.
Yeah, for sure. I think that looking at between the two of you, obviously Drew is looking weaker at running back, especially with however long Derrick Henry could be out. And Josh, I know in your interview, you mentioned that you needed some more wide receiver help. So that's definitely a help for you. Now, was this the initial trade, or was there a lot of negotiation to get to this point?
There was one I started with Jarvis Landry instead of Judy, and I totally understand Josh wanting to maybe upgrade that because Landry hasn't done a whole lot. And the thing with Judy was with their quarterback situation, I don't know how much you can rely on him, and I don't know if he's going to be a keeper for me. So I was like, you know what, I'll part ways with Judy if I can add to my running back situation.
Yeah, so the other part about this trade is that, Drew, you did trade off a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any consideration by you as to which first round pick you traded off? You had the choice between yours or Noel's.
I traded mine, right?
Yeah.
I guess it was. I'm sort of hoping and kind of. I want Noel to finish worse than me, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But as of now, there's a decent chance that could happen. So, of course, there's a lot of injuries that Noel has that might not be the case in 5 weeks. But I don't know. I didn't consider it too much. I did get my own fourth back though, which is kind of nice just for OCD purposes. But yeah,
that's great. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, I was going to say from my perspective, it worked out really well because my wide receiver depth right now is extremely limited due to a lot of injuries. So I know with Sutton maybe coming back in the next 3 to 5 weeks or hopefully never now that I have Judy. But yeah, I feel pretty good, at least for the short term. I know he can't play this week, but maybe next week. And their quarterback situation is terrible. So I feel pretty good about the future and trying to get up to the standards of some of these teams here. So
yeah, and Jerry Jeudy looked fantastic in that game. So definitely going to work out well for you, I hope. But thanks to both of you for joining me for this episode of Trade Talks, and we'll catch you when you make your next one.
All right. Thank you, Zach.
Hey everybody, it's the mahowald Minute. It's the third one, I believe, in the Rathole. Of course, the best fantasy football show out there on the internet. Of course, if you look at the views, that is, of course, the case, right? The Rathole is exploding right now with views. So I want to commend Commissioner Zack Eichten for that. The number one thing, vote in the assistant commissioner election, right? Perform your civic duty. Right, as a member of the Fantasy Football Pong Stars League, you got to do it. All right. Number 2, COVID. Right. There should be a bubble. Somebody should come up with an idea to institute a bubble for around the players in the league, so everybody's safe. First of all, of course, health and safety, number 1 priority. Right. But of course, the number 2 priority is, probably number 1 is getting this fantasy football season done.
Welcome back. The Rathole did not do an interview this week, as we instead had the Pong Stars Assistant Commissioner debate. This is going to be posted in a separate video, but I encourage each of you to view that and get ready to vote for your new Assistant Commissioner. It's time for the rankings, folks. Enjoy the nice and calming music. back. I hope you're all zenned out by now after looking at those rankings. So let's take a look at the previews of week number 5 here. In game number 1, we have Zach and the Gluten Freaks versus Thomas and the Dog Sniffers. Historically, Zach leads this record 7-2. And fun fact, these two teams have never met in the postseason, despite both being inaugural teams. Neat. Anyways, this is looking like it could be a really close game between these two teams. The Gluten Freaks will be looking to get back into winning form after just embarrassing defeat in week 4. Newly traded for Julio Jones will hopefully be in the lineup, barring any additional hamstring injuries or setbacks. And the Cardinals on this team will be looking to right themselves against a weak Jets defense. It's definitely going to have to be a statement game from the Gluten Freaks to be able to defend his high ranking in the league rankings this year. Thomas and the Dog Sniffers will be looking at James Conner and the dynamic duo of Kelsey and Andrews. Rumors were that potentially some of these tight ends were on the trade block this past weekend, but a deal was unable to get done with any of the teams that were involved. Additionally, new head coach for Deshaun Watson could potentially result in a breakout week for this star quarterback. We'll have to see who can come out on top in this fierce battle. Moving on to game number 2, we have the Rock Plopstas versus the Spring Chickens. The Chickens are coming off their best ever score, and the Rock Plopstas are coming off a sub 100 point week where their top running back was injured. Historically, John leads this matchup 6-5 all time, though. The Rock Plopstas are going to be relying on backup running back Antonio Gibson for at least the next 6 weeks, most likely, as Nick Chubb heals from his knee injury. Additionally, Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones will be on bye in week 5, severely limiting the number of starting players on this team. Injuries are starting to get bad for a lot of teams, and it hit home here really quick as well. But honestly, it may not even matter, as Brendan has the highest average points per game in the league in week 4. The Chickens are coming off a historic win of 192 points, where each part of the team was just firing on all cylinders. This week, these players have some tougher matchups that should be a bigger bit of a challenge for them. But the only team impacted by this week's buys was kicker Mason Crosby. So Swan will be looking to the waivers to get a backup there. Otherwise, this team is full strength and will be looking to make that series 6-6 all time. Moving on to game 3, we have Worse Than Trash versus the Glass Bones and Paper Skin. Now, both these teams are at 1-3 going into week 4 here. Lucas is 2-0 all time going into this game against Tony, though. Lucas is coming off a great upset win over Noel Tigan. Despite all of the naysaying going into week 4, Glass Bones managed to defy expectations and post their highest score of the season so far. This week is a new story, however, and will definitely be tougher to predict. Joe Mixon is no longer on the team, and the starting backs for this team as of now are Devin Singletary and Nyheim Hines. Definitely not the 1-2 punch this team started with going into the season. Additionally, loss of Kenny Golladay to bye weeks could have an impact as the top receiver is sidelined. However, if it's going to happen on 1 week where your top receiver has a bye, at least it's happening while you're playing Tony. Tony also has a single win owed to Noel and the Revengers this year, coming in at 1-3 as well. Team name change to Worse Than Trash makes the team kind of understand where they're really at, a rebuilding year. Newly traded for Cam Akers and DJ Moore can make this team starting lineup this week, as Akers is expected to play for his first time since his rib injury in week 2. Worse Than Trash is coming into this week with the lowest total points for, and the only team under 400 with 395.52 points. Tony will also have to play this week without potential starter DeAndre Swift and Adrian Peterson, as the Lions have an early bye week. We'll see which team is able to get a win this week despite those byes. So let's head on over to game 4 then, where we have our other pair of 1-3 teams, the Revengers versus the Gruesome Grinders. These teams have the 3rd and 5th highest points for in the league, yet are at the bottom half of the standings just due to abysmal matchup luck at the beginning of the season here. But let's start with the Revengers. This team is looking really strong with the addition of Joe Mixon to supplement the time period that McCaffrey remains sidelined. He'll be there to help Alvin Kamara. Additionally, Michael Thomas has the potential to return in week 5. The number 1 receiver has been out since week 1, where he was injured with a high ankle sprain. Additionally, newly traded for Calvin Ridley will be available going into week number 5 as well. Going forward, this team could be even more ferocious with top running back on this team still sidelined with Christian McCaffrey. But for this week, the Gruesome Grinders definitely have a tough battle against the Revengers, especially now that Austin Eckler is hurt and will be out for most likely 4 to 6 weeks. But what the fantasy gods take, they also give. And now Kareem Hunt is the number 1 back in Cleveland for the foreseeable future with Nick Chubb out. Derrick Henry coming back from the COVID quarantine, assuming that the Titans can play despite some additional players getting tested positive, should help beef up this team in the running back core as well. In my opinion, these are two of the best teams in the league, rather, and both have a lot to gain and a lot to lose this week. Now, finally, let's head on over to the Pong Stars Game of the Week. In the Pong Stars Game of the Week, we have Josh Polingo and Not Trading Lamar facing off against Sam Olson and the Google team names for the Golf Ball Whacker Guy Trophy. This is the newest traveling trophy between our 2 resident professional golfers. Let's talk about Not Trading Lamar first. Josh and NTL have been extremely lucky on their schedule this year with the lowest average points against in 4 weeks. However, with Not Trading Lamar with Lamar Jackson facing off against Cincinnati, you can expect him to be running the ball and the score up this week. Additionally, the dynamic Jacksonville duo of James Robinson and DJ Chark against a weak Houston defense is exactly what this team needs to keep up with the name's potential big production. But the Names are on a hot streak, winning 3 in a row coming into this match and being in second place based off points for. One potential point of concern is the one and only Philip Lindsay coming back to Denver and reducing that Melvin Gordon value just a little bit. However, Metcalf, Cooper, and Fuller are all in line to have great games again, and will be looking to keep up with any potential scoring of Lamar and company. Now that we have matchup previews out of the way, let's head on over to the Pong Stars Pick'em. Back. Just right before we sign off, I just want to have a heart-to-heart, a quick chat with all of you. Things got pretty heated on Tuesday night in the group chat, and a lot of tensions and emotions erupted. Some people have been feeling targeted, and I just want to remind everyone that this is still just fantasy football, all right? Like, it doesn't actually matter. To drop the veil of the bit here, this is all just supposed to be taken way too seriously just for the content and like the joke of it, not in reality. Everybody needs to just chillax and remember that we're just all doing this so we can have a good time in the fall here. Just keep that in mind in your actions and how you talk and everything. If you have concerns over the actions of other league mates, either conduct or in game or anything, shoot me a text individually first before just sort of erupting in the group chat. We're all adults. We're just trying to have a bit of extra fun with a goofy fantasy football league. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad here. And I'm also not going to engage in a debate on this again. So just please keep Pong Stars fun for everybody. And I hope that we all can continue to have fun this week and moving forward. But let's move on over to a more fun topic before we sign out here. And it's that we still do have the assistant commissioner election coming up. So keep that in mind as we vote on Tuesday, October 13th. And make sure to tune in to the assistant commissioner debate that will be posted in conjunction with this episode of the Rathole. That's all we have for this week's episode of the Rathole. I'm your host, Commissioner Zack Eichten. And remember to vote. It's a great virtual background.
Oh, it's not gonna work.
I know, it looks just like your team.
Right.